Mr. Sunny Mehta, Mr. Vikas Yadav, Mr. Vishnu, other young friends of JNU, I'm very happy to be back here to speak to you, I think after a gap of about a year and a half, I think. But today is a special occasion because the subject is specific. It is the Citizenship Amendment Act, the possibility of a rollout of the National Population Register, and the looming threat of a National Register of Citizens. Although they appear to be three different things, they are closely interconnected. I know I'm speaking to scholars. Many will agree with me, many here may not agree with me. But I'm happy that both sides are here. I hope both sides are here. And I will lay out the facts. I'm not addressing lay people. I'm not addressing uneducated people who have to be told not only the facts, but the implications of the facts. But to people like you, I need only to spell out the facts and then allow you to draw your own conclusions. If I was in your position, I would not like someone to tell me what the conclusions are. I just want to know what the facts are. And I will tell him or her, thank you for telling us the facts. I know how to draw my own conclusions. So I sincerely hope that you will listen to the facts from me and draw your own conclusions. Now, firstly, citizenship is dealt with in the Constitution of India. Articles 5, 6, 7, etc. deals with citizenship. All over the world, citizenship is based on the principle of jus soli, J-U-S, S-O-L-I, which means it goes with the territory. Anyone who lives within the territory of the United States of America is presumed to be a citizen. Anyone who lives within the territory of Australia is presumed to be a citizen of Australia. So ordinarily, anyone who lives here, or anyone who has lived here, anyone who and his parents have lived here, anyone who and his parents and his grandparents have lived here are presumed to be citizens. They are not visitors, they are not tourists, they are not ambassadors and high commissioners. They are people who live in India and therefore are Indians. When the constitution makers, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Rajendra Prasad, Jawaharlal Nehru, the legal experts, Sardar Patel, and others drafted these articles of the Constitution, by the time they finalized the wording, it took them 3 months. Just remember that. It took them 3 months to finalize the wordings of these articles. The Constituent Assembly debates will tell you that it was debated, not continuously, over a period of 3 months. The Citizenship Amendment Act was amended last year. That is why it's called Citizenship Amendment Act, CAA. The draft of the amendment was brought to the Cabinet on a Sunday, December 8th. It was passed by the Cabinet, or approved by the Cabinet, at about 6 p.m. on December 8. It was brought to the Lok Sabha as an unlisted item on the morning of December 9, which was a Monday, and it was passed after debate at 12 midnight against opposition. Since it was passed only on 12 midnight, it could not have been brought to the Rajya Sabha the next day, because it had to be printed and then brought. So we skipped December 10. The bill was brought to the Rajya Sabha on December 11 in the morning, and after debate it was passed at 6 p.m. The President gave assent, I think, the same day, and it was notified a day or two later. So between the Cabinet approving the bill at 6 p.m. on December 8 and the Rajya Sabha passing the bill at 6 p.m. on December 11, it took 3 days. So what Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, Jawaharlal Nehru and others took 3 months, these very wise men did it in 3 days, because their collective wisdom is much greater than Ambedkar's wisdom. Their collective wisdom is much greater than Jawaharlal Nehru's wisdom. Who knows? Someday there may be a Narendra Modi University with a Amit Shah Junior University. What have they done? They have cut at the foundation of India's citizenship premise. They have cut at the premise by saying citizenship for a certain section of people will be based on religion, not on territory. Now there are many very learned people who say, so what? After all, if some sections are persecuted, we are allowing them to come into India. But if another section we think is not persecuted, we will not allow them to come to India. That's the superficial view. That's what appears on the surface. The deeper cut is, you are changing the basis of citizenship from territory to religion. You are now granting or denying citizenship based on religion. Now there are some countries which grant citizenship based on religion. I'm not denying that. They are theocratic states. Israel invites all the Jews of the world to become citizens of Israel. There are many countries which are declared, proclaimed Islamic countries, Buddhist countries. There's even a Hindu kingdom. We have no quarrel. But that is not the basis on which India was formed. That is not the basis on which India gained independence. That is not the basis on which the Indian Constitution is written. So you are undermining the basis of India's Constitution, which is our first objection. Now let's come to the content of the law. What have you said? You say there are 3 neighbors where people are persecuted. We accept it. BJP leaders are distorting our opposition. We are not against identifying 3 countries as our neighbors. Afghanistan is a neighbor in a sense that a bit of Afghanistan touches India. A very small bit. Unless you look at the map closely, you will not know which bit of Afghanistan touches India. Pakistan is a neighbor. Bangladesh is a neighbor. But do we have only 3 neighbors? What about the other neighbors? What about Sri Lanka? What about Bhutan? What about Nepal? What about Myanmar? And what about the big elephant, China? These are not neighbors. So when you choose 3 neighbors, you deliberately omit 5 other neighbors. Then they choose 6 religions. We have no quarrel again. Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, Parsi, and Christianity. We have no quarrel. You have chosen 6 religious minorities, according to you, religions. But what about other people who are being treated worse than the minorities? What about the Ahmadiyas of Pakistan? What about the Rohingyas of Myanmar? What about the Mahazas of Afghanistan? What about the Shias of Pakistan? What about the Tamil Hindus and the Tamil Muslims of Sri Lanka? What about the Hindus in Myanmar? So while you identify some minorities allegedly persecuted, why are you leaving out the others who are being equally persecuted? In fact, according to the United Nations High Commission on Human Rights, the worst persecution in the world is against the Rohingyas of Myanmar. And until recently, the Tamils in Sri Lanka were equally persecuted, both on grounds of religion and on the grounds of language. They were doubly persecuted. And then there is a funny phrase. It will be tested in a court of law. They say, if anyone belonging to these 6 religious groups comes from, underline the word from, the 3 countries, he is no longer an illegal migrant. Otherwise, he is an illegal migrant. He will violate the Foreigners Order. He will violate the Passport Act. So he is an illegal migrant. But if you have come from these 6 countries, say 3 countries, and you belong to the 6 religions, you are no longer an illegal migrant. What does the word from mean? He passes through that country, is also from that country. Somebody from Saudi Arabia or Israel could have come to Pakistan on a tourist visa, and from Pakistan he can come to India. He's from Pakistan. You don't even say he must be a citizen of those 3 countries. You don't even say he must be a permanent resident of those 3 countries. You just say from. So if I pass through that country, I am qualified. It's very poor drafting. Be that as it may. What is our objection? Our objection is the bill nowhere mentions religious persecution. The text of the bill does not even use the word religious persecution or persecution of any kind. The objects and reasons of the Act says persecution. But why should persecution be only religious persecution? It can be language persecution, linguistic persecution. It can be persecution on the ground of race. It can be persecution on the ground of economic deprivation. It can be political persecution. So when you use persecution, why do you look upon it as only religious persecution? In fact, in Sri Lanka, the persecution is largely based on religion and language. Anyway, our objection is, and please understand this very carefully because the BJP continues to distort it. It says the Congress party and other liberal left parties are opposed to giving refuge and eventually citizenship to persecuted Hindus and Sikhs of Pakistan. Wrong. Where have we said it? Show me one place where any leader of the Congress party or any CPI, CPM leader has said we are opposed to giving citizenship to a persecuted Hindu or a persecuted Sikh or a persecuted Buddhist of Pakistan or Bangladesh. We are not against those who have been included. We are against the bill because we want those who are excluded to be brought in. Our opposition is not about the inclusion. Our opposition is about the exclusion. You have included a few categories, we welcome that, but you've excluded equally placed categories, we are opposed to that. The principle of law is very simply stated: birds of the same feather must flock together. If people belong to the same category, they have to be treated equally. If you leave out some, it is called under-inclusive. If you add birds of another feather, it becomes over-inclusive. These are all minorities. These are all people who are being discriminated, persecuted in their countries and our neighbors. Include all of them. We have no problem. In fact, our demand is not to deny citizenship to 3 countries, 6 categories, but to include all neighbors and all categories. Let me make that very clear. Our opposition to the bill is not what is included in the bill. Our opposition to the bill is what is excluded from the bill. It's not even subtle. It's a simple, straightforward point. It doesn't require a great intellectual analysis to understand what I'm saying. But yet the BJP goes around spreading the lie. The Congress parties, CPI, CPM, left parties, liberal parties, regional parties are opposed to giving citizenship to poor Hindus and Sikhs and Buddhists. Completely wrong. It's a complete lie. In fact, we go a step further, and I've written about it. What we need today is not an amendment to the Citizenship Act. What we need is a law on refugees. We must have a broad, humane law on refugees. Who is a refugee? Who will qualify as a refugee? He can come from South America, for all we know. If he has a reason to come to India and say, this is the only place where I'm safe, please allow me to come in. He's a refugee, he must be treated as one. If he qualifies for refuge, we must give him asylum, and over a period of time, he may or may not qualify for citizenship. We are arguing for a broader law, a larger law, a law on refugees, which is broad and humane. Now, why was the CAA brought? Here is the political story. The CAA was brought because of the fiasco in Assam. There is an utter fiasco. There is an Assam Accord, I'm not denying that. There's a cut-off date, 23rd February or June 1971. And it says people who have come after this date are aliens. They have to be identified and eventually asked to leave Assam. Now, whether that's right or wrong is not the subject matter today. That is an accord. We are not denying that. But that was 50 years ago. Times have changed. 50 years is a long time. I'm not going to the merits of the Assam Accord. So the government then, the great gusto said, we are going to implement the Assam Accord. Unfortunately, the Chief Justice of India then, coming from Assam, thought that if he puts a seal on it, nobody can question it. So he was driving it from the court. Mr. Modi was driving it from the government. Mr. Sonowal and his ministers were driving it from Assam. They picked a guy who will listen to them, one Mr. Haleja. He's now in the dumps. They picked a guy by name Mr. Haleja and said, drive, identify as many people as you can. The initial identification was 40 lakh plus people in a population of about 3 crore 25 lakhs. Unfortunately, they were hit on both sides. There were people who said 40 lakhs is too small. There were people who said 40 lakhs is too big. So they didn't please anyone in Assam. And then they realized, what do we do with this 40 lakhs? Let's try to review it. They did a review. The review yielded an equally large number, 19,06,657. Now, 19,06,657 is a humongous number. But what made it even more difficult for them is about 12 lakhs are Hindus and 7 lakhs are Muslims. There's some others, small number. Broadly, 12 lakhs are Hindus, 7 lakhs are Muslims. Now, what does the poor Hindutva-driven government do? What is the whole project is floundering, because what do you do with the 12 lakh Hindus? The 7 lakh Hindus, of course, you can wave a magic wand and they will disappear. But what will be the 12 lakh Hindus? Where will they go? What will you do with them? Therefore, they thought about the CAA. The only way to get out of the Assam fiasco was to make a law by which the Hindus will be allowed to stay, the Muslims will be allowed to, or forced to. That's the story of the CAA. The CAA was a direct result of the utter fiasco of Assam. They want the 12 lakh Hindus to come in and the 7 lakh Muslims to go out. Of course, Assam people won't have anything of that. They want all of them to go out. Now ask myself, and I ask this question in Parliament, where will they go? Have you got into an agreement with any country which is willing to take them? Which country is accepting them as their citizens? Is Bangladesh accepting them? And even if they accept them, how will they go? You will take them by train, by ship, by air? How many trucks will be required? How many ships will be required? 19 lakh. What are we talking about? We're talking about a number which is more than the population of 50 countries of the world. Where will you send them? And who is willing to accept them? So when Mr. Amit Shah says they are termites and I'll throw them out by 2024, just before the next election, he's talking through his hat. He cannot throw them out anywhere unless he decides to dump them in the Bay of Bengal. The world will sit and watch while you throw people into the Bay of Bengal. It's a non-starter. They know that. We know that. The world will not sit quiet while you push these 19 lakh people out, knowing not where they are going, who's willing to accept them. So what they have now decided is to build camps. They are building one at a cost of 46 crore, which will house 3,000 people. Now ask these questions, there is again no answer. If it costs 46 crore to build a detention center for 3,000 people, let's do some back of the envelope calculation. For 10,000 people, it will cost about 140 crore. For 1 lakh people, it will cost 1,400 crore. For 10 lakh people, it will cost 14,000 crore. For 20 lakh people, it will cost 28,000 crore. Who has got 28,000 crore to build camps? And after you build the camp, you have to give them food, you have to give them medicine. What about the cost of that? And what about the children? They will also go to camps. And final question, how long will they remain in camps for the rest of their lives? Is it some kind of a Auschwitz that you are creating here? What happened in Hitler's Germany, and he conquered several countries and built gas chambers to gas them. Auschwitz just celebrated 75th year, or marked 75th year. Are they going to live the rest of their lives there? These are hopelessly foolish, inhumane, monstrous, foolish ideas which can only come from people who cannot think straight. In order to get out of this NRC fiasco, they have brought the CAA. Now when the opposition to the CAA became very strong and strident, they fell back upon the NPR. This is how the connection. NRC gave rise to CAA. Opposition to the fiasco of NRC gave rise to CAA. The opposition to CAA has given rise to NPR. Now what does the NPR do? They say NPR is a benign exercise. Why are you worried? NPR is only going to count who's going to be in India. But that there is a census. If you only want to count people, there is a document known as census. Do that. Why are you doing an NPR? So the mischief is found when you look at the draft of the questionnaire. They have added 8 questions. The first question is the most mischievous question. What is the date of birth and place of birth of your parents? Now NPR is only to find out where are you a usual resident. You have to only ask, where are you a resident? You call Sunny and say, where are you a resident? He will give an address. That's it. Why do you want to know where were your parents born? What is the date of birth of your parents? Why do you want to know that question? Answer. There are any number of Sikhs from Punjab who have settled down in Chennai. The whole General Patter's Road, where automobile parts and accessories business is dominated by them. But they are living in Chennai. They are living, their fathers used to live. They are living there for 50 years. If you ask a Sardar boy there, he will say, am I a usual resident of Chennai? Why do you want to know where his parents were born? Today, if you ask Mr. Kapil Sibal where your father was born, truthfully he has to say, my father was born in Pakistan. What is now Pakistan is Lahore. Dr. Manmohan Singh must say, my father was born in Pakistan. There are any number of people whose parents were born in Pakistan. But why do you want to know that question? Why do you want to know that answer? In order to somehow take you back and connect you to either Bangladesh or Pakistan and then mark you as doubtful. That is the whole idea. Many people don't have documents. Assam is visited with floods every year, washes away everything. How will you have documents? 40% of India's children do not have their births registered or recorded anywhere. Now that must improve, I'm not denying that. But today the reality is 40% of births are not recorded. I'll tell you a little story. My grandfather built my house in the village in 1902. It's written there 1902. There was a recently local body elections in my village, or other villages also. Suppose a new sarpanch comes and says, show me the document that your grandfather built it in 1902. Where will I go for a document? Then he'll say, you don't have a document, quit the house, vacate the house. What document will anybody produce for a house built in 1902? I asked my wife, can you trace my SSLC school leaving certificate? She says, I'm sorry, as long as your mother was alive, she had it, but I don't know where it is. I said, don't worry, we'll produce the SSLC certificate when the Prime Minister produces his degree certificate. What kind of questions to ask? There are poor people, there are tribals, there are Dalits, there are nomadic people, there are people who move from place to place, internal migration in search of jobs, in search of food, in search of shelter. In a country where there's so much internal movement, and there is natural calamity and poverty and status deprivation. More than poverty, there is status deprivation. Dalit, tribal, OBCs, what are used to be called criminal tribes. How do you ask for evidence where he was born, where his father was born, where his grandfather was born? Do you know that Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed's grandson is not a citizen of Assam? There are all kinds of people who fought in the war, their children are not citizens of Assam, according to this Ajela. So today we have a triple assault on India's sense of citizenship. First was the NRC. Since that was a fiasco, it gave rise to the CAA. Since there is such strident opposition to the CAA, they have invented the NPR. That is why we say all three must be opposed. We are opposing the NPR politically. We are opposing the CAA legally. NPR is backed by the Citizenship Act. You can count. You can ask a person where his usual resident is. But as long as these 8 mischievous questions are there, we are opposing it politically. The CAA is an amendment act. It violates the Constitution. It introduces the principle of religion for citizenship. It violates the clause, Article 14 of equality. We are opposing it legally. Just as we were able to create a movement in this country that the NRC, and the government has said, we have not even thought about the NRC. But the Home Minister said NRC will be done. Right. What did he say, Parliament? Write it down. Whether you like it or not, NRC will be done. That's what he said. Now, nobody has thought about it. Are you saying that the Home Minister spoke without anyone thinking about it? It's dangerous to have a Home Minister who speaks things which nobody has thought about. There's no discussion in the government. Therefore, we have pushed the NRC into the back burner. Not that it will not come back. If they think they have found their political strength, they will bring back the NRC. But we have pushed it into the back burner. The CAA must be opposed legally. We are confident that the Supreme Court will strike down the CAA. NPR is to be opposed politically, and we are confident with your support, the support of all those people who are protesting, from Shaheen Bagh to Park Circus in Kolkata, to Kondia in Pune, to a village in Tamil Nadu, and to the millions who gathered in Hyderabad and marched across Hyderabad city. We are confident that we can defeat the NPR politically, and we are confident that we can defeat the CAA legally, and I ask you for your support. Thank you.